they'll be glad to take a couple questions if anybody has any. I know you have got a great day ahead of you, but any questions?
Oh, sure.
Go ahead.
Have you had any thoughts about curing the student debt crisis?
Sure. I'm on the education committee, and obviously the cost of college is out of control. I think there's a few ways we should tackle this. Number one, this assumption that everyone needs to go to this one-size-fits-all four-year college. That was the wrong assumption to make in my generation. My generation is facing trillions of dollars of student loan debt, and I think the renaissance that we're seeing with skilled trades, vocational certificates, those are great opportunities for our kids. Certainly that's something that we've invested in my district, so the focus on workforce development and making sure that's connected to K through 12, and particularly middle and high school, I think that's one way to tackle it. Number two, overhauling the financial literacy programs in high school. Students need to understand what amount of debt they're taking out and what that means for their repayment. I do not support the Democrats' proposal, which is to wipe away the $1 trillion of student loan debt when you have many hardworking families and hardworking people who worked to pay back their student loans. But you've got to crack down on the rising cost of college, in addition to dealing with the debt that's currently out there, and reining in the regulations that we continue to put on our higher ed institutions. When I visit colleges in my district, they talk about how they've had to staff up, not on the professors and academic side, but on kind of the regulatory side, to make sure that they're going through all the paperwork. So we need to crack down on that as well. We overhauled the FAFSA form. That's also important to make sure that we're getting the right information about the financial background. So those are a few ideas. It's obviously a generational concern, and we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to solve it, but it's not going to be solved by a $1 trillion payback to people who want to wipe the loan. Do you have an idea?
May I offer you
Sure.
this, and I wanted to give it to the other two
I'll take it.
representatives as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rodney.
This is a solution.
Oh, Rodney.
Thank you. I'd love to see your solution. Actually, I have a bill that will address part of what Elise mentioned. It's the debt that our generation and the generation right behind me has accumulated in debt. We got 280 co-sponsors on a bill called the Employer Participation in Student Loan Assistance Act. It's a private sector voluntary approach to help companies help pay down the debt of their employees. Remember, we've got people going into the workforce in the best economy with the lowest unemployment and rising wages that we've seen in generations, but they can't invest in the 401k that's offered. They can't invest in saving for a home or actually achieving that American dream. Do you know, though, right now under our tax law, if Steve Scalise was to employ me and I wanted to go back to school while working for him, he could give me tuition reimbursement and I wouldn't be taxed on the first $50 to $250. But student debt, if Steve wanted to pay my student debt, I'd be taxed on the entire amount that he gave me. He can do it. So why don't we treat student debt the same way we treat tuition reimbursement? That's my bill. Elise is the co-sponsor of that bill. Steve's gonna be when we get back to Washington.
David will be when he gets ready.
And David was before, and David will be there again. Thank you, and I look forward to reading
I'd like
this.
to talk to you afterwards, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Steve, I'm not kidding.
I wouldn't have employed him.
Yes, sir.
It's my opinion that healthcare is the Achilles heel of the Republican Party. And I think that the party needs to do a better job of communicating with the American people about what it plans to do to help us maintain the best healthcare system in the world, which we do have. But many people are faced with challenges due to the fact that, well, government has been involved with healthcare. And I think that's really what has driven up pricing. I remember back in the 90s that the party, Newt Gingrich came up with the idea of a contract with, for America. And it seemed to be a very good way to communicate with people. They were very specific. They were able to drive that message. But I don't think I even understand. I follow politics very closely. I don't understand what the Republican Party is proposing to do to help us strengthen and maintain our healthcare system. And I would hate to see us go to a single payer, which will destroy innovation and lower results and destroy the system that we have. So we need to do a better job of communicating on that level.
Well, it's all or nothing right now in healthcare, because if you look at what the other side wants to do, get rid of private insurance altogether. That means getting a single payer government-run healthcare system dumps everybody into one pool. Right? That means no veterans healthcare system, no private healthcare system. If you're a state employee or federal employee, that's gone too. And once you go that way, you don't come back. Those countries that have gone that way don't come back. So we have to be very proactive as Republicans. First of all, we have to recognize that while we are for free markets and we are capitalists, in this sector of the economy, healthcare, we have to demand that there be price transparency so we know what things are. We have to demand that as consumers, and we have to use our purchasing power to be able to negotiate directly with the providers, not always with the insurance companies, to say, hey, what does this really cost? And when you create that price transparency, then you create competition and quality as well. We need to give states more authority and rights as well to take care of people within their states, purchase insurance across state lines, association health plans. Our ideas are there. We just need to get the Congress back. We were so close last time. As you know what happened, we didn't have the votes in the Senate. But this is all or nothing, and I'm going to be proactive on healthcare. The demagoguery on the other side about pre-existing conditions, everybody supports those that have pre-existing conditions to make sure that they receive coverage and insurance. That issue's off the table because everybody supports that.
Well,
Steve wants to say
I
something.
think the
I'm very
reason-
passionate about this.
The reason you lost your seat was because of the healthcare issue.
They did a very effective job at lying about healthcare. And Bloomberg alone spent probably about $2 million a race. He spent over $100 million helping Pelosi become speaker. And he would go, and I know in this race, he would spend $2 million a week in districts lying about healthcare, saying, you know, this Republican wanted to take away protection for pre-existing conditions. It was a flat-out lie. Now, you say it over enough, then people start believing it. But we have got to come back to healthcare. And this is where, as David touched on, when we had the majority, we put the coalition together with one vote to spare in the House to completely transform healthcare, go from Obamacare to a system where you had price transparency, you could buy whatever you want, wherever you wanted, across state lines. You could go on your phone in 5 minutes and get a quote from this little lizard from Maryland and save $500 on auto insurance. You can't do that in healthcare. There's no reason why you can't. And so we put a lot of that in place. And by the way, you look at Medicaid, one of the most broken forms of healthcare. Obamacare dumped millions more people into the most broken form of healthcare, Medicaid. So millions more people are on a system that wasn't working. We block granted Medicaid to the states. Iowa's needs for low-income people are dramatically different than Louisiana's needs, or New York's needs, or Illinois' needs. Yet it's a one-size-fits-all. We did that. We made that one change, again, one vote away in the Senate. Remember that one vote. We got to come back to healthcare. That alone, not only would it make healthcare better for low-income people, it would save over $800 billion. You want to balance the federal budget, you want to get spending under control. Great economy helps, but getting reforms where healthcare can actually get to be where people make their choice again. And oh, by the way, Obamacare is what took over the student loan program. Student loans used to be administered by your local banks. Your local banker knew your needs. Well, it made money, and they hate profit, so they said, okay, they didn't do away with it or make it cheaper for students. They said, oh, let's have the federal government take over the student loan program to pay for Obamacare. So now the government's making money off of it. Surprisingly, since Obamacare took over student loans, you've seen a dramatic increase in student loan debt per student. So the government monetized the student loan program to pay for government largesse in healthcare. We've got to come back to healthcare. We'll win on this issue. By the way, we had a package of bills to lower drug prices. You want to talk about the cost of impeachment? We had a package of bills that every Democrat in committee voted for and every Republican. Pelosi won't bring that package to the floor because of impeachment. And one example is, right now, when a company makes a life-saving drug, you want companies to make more life-saving drugs. They have 10 years to make their money back. At the end of the 10 year, the drug goes to the generic market. And obviously, the generic's pretty much the same drug, but a lot cheaper, right? Well, right now, the drug company can pay the generic company not to make the generic drug. It's called pay to delay. It's legal right now. We had a bill to make that illegal. So you get more drugs, generic drugs to the market, lower costs for families. You'd be paying lower costs today. President Trump wants to sign the bill. Pelosi won't bring that package of bills to the floor. It would fly out with over 400 votes. That's the cost of impeachment. We've got to come back to this issue.
One more question right here. Go ahead.
Right along with healthcare, health savings accounts. I would like to see health savings accounts available to anybody who wants one. Currently, you have to have a high deductible insurance plan. So I went from an employment situation where I had high deductible insurance. Now my husband and I are self-employed, and we paid for independent insurance. When we switched over to a healthcare plan, we saved $10,000 a year just on the insurance costs, but we can't get our HSAs. I'm sorry, an HSA is a perfect fit for healthcare, so I would like to see HSAs available to everybody, not just people who have high deductibles.
HSAs would be part of the solution. It was in our bill in the House of Representatives, and so, hey, we're about almost 8 o'clock here. Just want to implore again, just how thankful I am that you are here today. Some of you probably didn't go to bed. That's okay. Get a nap this afternoon. But elections, this one really, really is important, from the top all the way down. And I couldn't do this without your support, your prayers, your financial support. You know, the first Tuesday in November, we're going to be victorious. But there's going to be a big responsibility as well. And make sure that we're always keeping those who are serving you accountable. And that you make sure that they're listening to you. Because you control this. You are the boss. This is self-government. This is a republic. If we can keep it. So let's keep it. I want to thank everybody for being here today. God bless. Have a great day. Let's do this. Thank you.